Okay, welcome to the special governing board meeting of the Vacaville Unified School District for January 26, 2021, in which we will be appointing a seventh trustee to sit on the VUSD board. Again, just want to remind the applicants to turn off their cameras until it's their time to speak. And so first we'll have approval of the agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda, Jane?
No, there aren't.
Okay, so can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
I move to approve the agenda.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion and second. Roll call vote.
Okay, Mr. Santillan, your vote, please.
Yes.
Mr. Jansen,
Yes.
Mr. Conley,
Yes.
Ms. Walsh,
Yes.
did I already ask you, Mrs. Daly?
No, and I'm a yes.
I'm so sorry. Mr. Kitsis, your vote,
Yes,
please.
thank you.
Okay.
Okay, so that passes. Next, we have comments from the floor, and since this is a special board meeting, the only comments allowed are for this agenda item that we have here about appointment to the Board of Trustees. So if anybody has a comment they want to make on that, please raise your hand, and Teresa will write that down, and then we'll call on the person.
And do you mean raise your hand in the chat or where?
Well, you push the raise hand button.
Okay.
Is the chat on? I guess it's on. There's just nobody in it.
I haven't seen anything yet.
Okay, so final calls. Anybody to make a comment? Otherwise, we'll move on to the rest of the meeting.
We have one hand raised.
Hold on, we do have one.
Where is it?
Vasquez,
Okay, I don't see it on mine, so go for it. Is it a Mr. or Miss Vasquez?
Mary Vasquez. Miss.
Okay, Mary Vasquez, you're on.
Hi, Vacaville School Board members. Just wanted to call in. My name's Mary Vasquez. I'm a parent at Markham Elementary School and also Vacaville High School, and just wanted to call in support of candidate Santiago Serrato. He is a Markham family member, but also, you know, a great representative of this specific district. And just wanted to, you know, endorse and give my full support to him. I think he would be a great member in addition to the board to fill Mike Silva's vacant position, and just really hoping that we are able to select a candidate from that is living and has kids in the respective districted area. And just wanted to, you know, wish you all luck in this interview process, but also just strongly encourage someone from the specific district, and just supporting Santiago. He's a great community member. He's outspoken. He understands what's happening around in the respective community, and what's happening in the city of Vacaville and with the school district. So just wanted to throw that out there, and wish you all luck. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mary. Teresa, are there any others?
No, that's it.
Okay, so we're going to move on to the appointment process to the Board of Trustees, and I'll hand it over to Jane Shamia.
Hi, everybody. Welcome. I'm Jane Shamia, Superintendent of the school district, and I am actually going to facilitate the whole process tonight.
Oh, hey, Jane,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I forgot I was going to say one thing. Sorry about that before you get into the whole thing, and then I won't bother you, I promise.
Yeah, forever, you promise?
Well, no, I don't. But what I would like to say is that I would like to point to the fact that this is the first time we've appointed a trustee since we have moved into district elections. And when Michael Silva, who moved to the city council, was elected to this seat in 2018, it was an at-large seat, meaning the whole district voted in the election and there was no residency requirement. In November of 2022, when this seat is up for election again, the candidates for this seat must live in District 5 and will be elected only by the voters of District 5. So if someone is appointed to this seat that does not live in District 5 at the time of the November 2022 election, they will not be able to run again for this seat. So I thought it was just important that everybody in the audience understand kind of the wholeness of the situation. Jane.
Thank you. So I'm going to go over the process. Teresa's going to pull up the PowerPoint. So we have 9 candidates, as you know. So Teresa has all the candidate names in a jar, in a container. She will pull them randomly for what we call the opening question, which is basically your summary. Each candidate will have 5 minutes to answer this question, and there will be a timer up there. So when your name is called, please turn your mic and camera on so we can see you. After all 9 applicants have answered the first question, randomly, names being pulled randomly, each board member will then state their top 3 choices, and they have to state it by order of preference. Our Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources, Chris Hewlett, will have on the screen a weighting system. He will enter what each board member says, and the board member's first choice will be given 3 points, second choice 2 points, third choice 1 point. And then it will calculate a score for each candidate or applicant. And then we'll take the 3 highest scores and they will be the finalists. The rest of the applicants will be excused. You can stay and watch, but you won't be part of the process anymore. Then we'll have our 3 finalists. If there is a tie, we might end up with 4. Then Teresa's going to take those names and pull the first one, again, out of a jar, who will be the first one to answer the next question. Then she'll pull the second one to answer question 1 and the third. That's going to set up the order that I'm going to rotate for each question. There's a total of 7 questions, but we'll rotate who will answer the next question first. These questions, the finalists will have 3 minutes to answer. And again, there'll be a timer on the screen so you can manage your time. After we've completed those questions, the board will then have an open discussion, deliberate, then eventually make a decision. I will hand it back over to Michael at that point to lead the discussion. So I think we're ready to Teresa, can you pull the screen down for a minute on share? Does any board member have any questions about this process or comment? Shelley?
I just wanted to say that we also are basing our ranking that we do on the applications themselves that we have all received and read. So it's not just based on this evening, it's based on those. And the other thing is, are we not going to do a ranking of the 3 at the end? We're just going to do a discussion and a final vote? Okay,
Correct.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for pointing that out. Yeah, board members have reviewed all the applications. Any other board member have a comment or question? Okay, so I think we're ready. Teresa, you can share your screen again. What we're going to do is, once Teresa gets the screen up and she pulls the first name, she'll read the name, and then please make sure that you turn on your video and your camera, and the question will pop up at the screen. So I'm going to read it, but you'll also be able to see it yourself. Okay, Teresa, do you have the Ken, can you put Teresa on the screen? Is it possible?
Right here. I'm right there.
Oh,
First candidate is Robert Haven.
okay. Question 1. Mr. Haven, can you make sure your camera and mic is on? Please tell us why you want to be a board member and what skills, experience, and expertise you have to offer the district and the governing team.
Hey, good afternoon. Can you see me or?
I can see you. Michael,
Okay.
can you see Mr.
Yes,
Haven?
we can see you.
Okay.
Hi, good evening, Superintendent Shmia, President Kitsis, respected board members. My name is Robert Haven. I've been a Vacaville member since 1978. I've attended Vacaville Public Schools, Vacaville Hemlock Public School, Jepson, and Vaca High. Our children have attended Callison, Vaca Peña, and Wilsey Wood. Our youngest children currently attend Kairos. I'm familiar with the schools. I've always been pleased with the school system itself. I completed my undergraduate education in '94, UC Davis, I took my CBEST and began substitute teaching at Vacaville, Hemlock, Elm, and Alamo schools. I considered becoming a 6th grade teacher at Hemlock, where my mentor, Mr. Morgan, was. Life plans changed. I selected law enforcement. I've been in law enforcement for 21 years, currently serve as a motor sergeant. I'm actually at work right now. I apologize if you hear the radio in the background. I've always been proud of law enforcement, but I've always been drawn to education. My strengths, why I think I do well, I'm disciplined, I'm self-motivated. I always get both sides of the story. I don't come in with agendas, I'm not opinionated, and I'm very humble. I believe I would be a good candidate. I've had an extensive background dealing with union members. Before I joined the department, I was a Teamster. I've been with our union for over 20 years now. I've been following loosely school events insofar as implementation of mental health and hiring new clinicians. I see the back end of it in my own work down at Golden Gate Bridge. So addressing mental health issues early on, I think is imperative, as well as special education. What else? Insofar as dealing with campus safety, I already have relationships established with Vacaville Police Department and allied agencies. I believe campus security be a good hot topic down the road, and I would already have an in, if you will, with law enforcement, coordinating with them. And then insofar as dealing with school closures and things of that nature, I'm again pro-union, and I'm very humble and open. I would willingly sit down and talk with teachers and SEIU and board members and establish relationships and be a sponge, if you will, and do what I can to learn as much about the job and be open-minded, not opinionated, and do what's best for the constituents, the teachers, and the students. And that's me in a nutshell. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Haven. We're ready for the next candidate, Teresa.
Next person to speak is George Burton Jr.
Okay, Mr. Burton, if you put on, Mr. Haven, if you could turn off your mic, please. And Mr. Burton, please turn on your mic and camera. Mr. Burton, would you like me to read the question again?
No, that's all right.
Okay.
Good evening. My name is George Burton, and I appreciate this opportunity to speak with you. At the last board meeting, Mr. Jensen expressed concern that the original 3 minutes might not be enough time for which you to base this decision on. This, of course, was extended to 5 minutes. And I am fortunate, though, as in addition to the information that I shared as part of the application process, I participated in the last election. I've publicly debated and shared my ideas and the reasons for which I want to be a board member with our community since last August. I shared my belief that I want to return our children to school as quickly, but more importantly, as safely as possible. I shared that despite the difficulties we face, we must capitalize on the advances that we have made through distance learning to launch education into the 2020s. I shared that our priority should always be to seek the best educators, the best classified employees, the best administrators to provide our students with a solid education to their benefit, as well as to the benefit of our community. I believe that our schools are our community's greatest asset, and that should be leveraged. In the end, I was honored to have earned the endorsement of the Vacaville Chamber of Commerce, many current and former elected officials and city leaders, as well as individual educators and parents. I received over 1,500 votes from a long-term and well-respected incumbents district. And for a first-time candidate and someone who cares deeply about my community, it was an amazing experience and only further solidified my desire to serve my community, which was my initial motivation in seeking this appointment. I say initial because in doing this and why I want to run, I have to address recent events and how they've impacted my thoughts. At both a local and national level, we have been witness to events that are both shocking and reprehensible. Seeing our nation's capital besieged by individuals sporting the regalia and insignia of racism and hate shook me to my core. It was further proof that our nation is not just dealing with a pandemic caused by COVID, but also by the pandemic of racism and hate, a disease that our own community sadly seems not to be immune to. I have spoken at length about my family's history in Vacaville, and the pride that I have in this deep-rooted connection. I'm proud to be from Vacaville, which is why I found it all the more troubling to hear from the members of our community speak out towards the abhorrent views shared by a planning committee member, with one lady describing this as a, quote, racist town. Just weeks before that, we were faced with just the most recent example of one of our high school students posting an image and caption that evoke the ugliest examples of racism. This is not who I believe us to be. So I have to ask myself, and in regards to your question, what do I bring to this discussion? Do I have a unique perspective that is not already represented? To be honest, I think my perspective is pretty well covered, but I would put to you that it is not my perspective that would serve this board. It's not my views that would serve our community. It is my ears. It is my ability to listen. It is my unwavering commitment to face the truth and experiences of the rich and vast perspectives that make up our community. To know that while the groundwork for change has been laid, we have a long way to go, and real change starts here at a local level with our community. Education is the greatest tool we have to build a better future. And through taking action based around this understanding, I believe that we will guide our schools to ensure that every child, regardless of race, religion, or orientation, is taught in an environment that is safe and inclusive, because that is who we are. This last year has brought us about unexpected challenges, many of which we have yet to completely solve. Now is the opportunity to make those changes. I was born and raised here in Vacaville. I'm a proud graduate of Vaca High. I'm the son and grandson of Vaca High grads. And if all goes according to plan, in 13 years, I'll be able to say I'm the proud father of a Vacaville grad. I am personally invested in the success of our schools, and I would like to join you in ensuring that success. I thank you for your time and your consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Burton. Ken, the timer, I saw the timer go away from the screen. Ken Johnson, I'm talking to our HR. Is there a problem?
Right, I'm restoring it. It's a Zoom thing. I'm bringing it back.
Okay. I think our applicants are respecting the timelines, but we still need to tell them. I could keep time here if it doesn't pop back up. Okay, Teresa, who's the next candidate or applicant, I should say?
Next applicant is Tom Coots.
Okay, Mr. Kutz, if you could put on your camera and your microphone, and then let me know if you'd like me to read the question again. It's up on the screen. Would you like me to read the question?
No, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for this interview and affording me the time to answer your questions today. Most importantly, first, why am I the most qualified candidate for your school board? And secondly, why do I want to do this? I've mulled public service over for years, long before I hung up my lab coat at Vacaville High School. And I understand being a board member is more work than most know. And it's work that often goes unrecognized and underappreciated. So on to the second question, why do this? It's the same reason I'm assuming that all the board members are on the board right now, because you want to serve our community. I want to give back to the community that gave so very much to me and my family. I have plenty of leadership and budgetary experience to bring from serving in the U.S. Navy as a senior enlisted officer, petty officer, to the trustee of a private school, to co-chair of the science department at Vacaville High School. So why choose me then to be your school board member? My two older kids graduated from Wood. Ray graduated in 97 and Danielle in 99. Ray joined the Navy and excelled in the nuclear field and is now a power plant operator for UC Davis Medical, and Danielle is the CFO of a large commercial framing company. My two younger kids graduated from Vaca High in 2015. Anthony, who attended San Francisco State, is now trying to find his way, got his degree in kinesiology, and my youngest son graduated in 2017 as his senior year at Cal Poly Aerospace. To say the very least, my wife Jackie and I have been through the parent-teacher conferences, the classroom aides, volunteering, concerts, games, plays, talent shows, fall and winter festivals, fundraisers, projects, and graduations. That's 32 years for me and that's 37 years for Jackie, supporting and engaging in Vacaville schools. I love it, and it's been great. And that's a lot of experience. I've seen the evolution of education in Vacaville as a parent and as a teacher. I've seen the evolution go backwards, sideways, and skyrocket towards greatness. My 16 years in the classroom and 30 years of coaching in Vacaville schools and in the community help bring first-person insight onto the board. When we talk about class size, when we talk about Common Core, we talk about extracurricular activities, I know the faces that are affected by those policies. I want to bring all my experience to the board and help the board continue to move our kids forward in this time of great uncertainty. I understand the need for making budgets and adhering to them. As I mentioned in my biography, I was a member of St. Joseph's Community and served in the parish council on Notre Dame school boards. Also serving as a co-chair of the science department at Vaca High taught me how to work with a very tight budget and get creative with fundraising to assist the exciting experience for science students. In closing, I believe the education that kids receive in Vacaville is first rate. We'll see Wood, Vaca High, across the board. And not because I was in the classroom or I had anything to do with the overall greatness of Vacaville, but also because our 4 kids have spent a combined 48 years in this district and all of them have had great starts. I can be an integral part of that board, be part of the team that provides this first-rate education. I know my experience and my enthusiasm as part of this team will come from listening, collaborating, and moving forward with ideas, that will help the students and the community as a whole. Thank you for your time, and I will take your questions whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Kutz. Teresa, would you like to poll the next one? Teresa, is your mic on?
Sorry about that. Okay.
There?
Our next speaker is John Corneliuson.
Mr. Corneliuson?
Yes, Corneliuson.
Put on your
Yes.
camera and mic and just let me know if you'd like me to read the question again to you.
No, thank you. I have it in front of me.
Okay, you can start. And if the camera doesn't pop up, I'll just keep time from where I'm sitting. It's 5:52. You can start.
Sounds good. Thank you. And good evening, Board President Kitsis, Vice President Dally, Board Members Wells, Stranson, Santellan, and Conley, Superintendent Shemaya, and Ms. Flores. Thank you for the opportunity to present myself as a candidate for the provisional appointment to the Vacaville Unified School District Board of Trustees. I've been in Vacaville all my life. My father was actually the principal of Vacaville High School when I was born. My mother ran a small business photography studio in downtown Vacaville and was highly involved in the local performing arts scene. I attended Hemlock, Vacaville Christian Academy, and Vacaville High. I live here with my wife for more than 20 years and our 3 boys who have all attended Vacaville schools, including Sierra Vista, Cooper, and Jepson. My oldest is a VUSD alumni and now attends the university. My other 2 are a sophomore at Wood and a senior at Buckingham. I've been involved in many youth sports programs, coaching hundreds of kids throughout Vacaville in baseball, flag football, and basketball since 2005. As a volunteer with the City of Vacaville, Vacaville American Little League, and Vacaville Pony League. Currently, I serve as a volunteer assistant coach with the Will C. Wood High School cross country team. Professionally, I have 15 years of public education service with extensive experience in training in school district operations and information technology. I currently serve as a director of technology infrastructure and support services for the Santa Clara County Office of Education. Previously, I served in cabinet level leadership positions at San Juan Unified, the 11th largest school district in the state, as well as locally at Travis Unified. I hold a bachelor's degree in information systems from the University of San Francisco and a school business management certificate from the University of Southern California. Now, while I'm running, I feel compelled to get involved in my community. I'm a longtime local, and I have beliefs and a vision, a personal vision for our schools. And I'll just touch on some of those points. I believe that all schools should have all students should have equal access to educational opportunities every day and with every instructional minute. As a board, our role is to transform the needs and wishes and desires of our community into district policy and educational outcomes. I think the district is already doing this through our LCAP, and I believe our superintendent and leadership team have been working diligently in achieving these outcomes. I know for a fact it's very hard work as I work in the system. I think a lot of district staff and teachers may feel that since March, they have had to learn their jobs all over again. But as a coach with an in-person sports activity that's allowed like cross country, I'm working directly with our kids out in the field, and they're struggling. And it's mainly due to distance learning, and they need our help, they need our support. And I want to be their voice on the board and work as a governing team to ensure our limited dollars are going to every intervention and support possible to help our kids. I believe we need to safely reopen our schools as soon as possible, but in accordance with local public health guidelines, the state's reopening guidance, and in collaboration with our employee labor groups. We need to ensure our teachers are supported so that our community can begin the work of rebuilding our school climate and culture. In post-pandemic, whenever this is eventually behind us, we need to continue our work in deploying training, technology, and school facility improvements to better protect our students from bias, bullies, and bullets. Also, using COVID as an equity check, we need to ensure that all Vacaville students remain socially, emotionally, and academically whole. We need to form partnerships with local government agencies in the private sector, local business, to invest in this equity work so that as one community, we can continue to work in closing the gap for our most vulnerable students. And for long-term planning, although federal and state funding proposals appear to be favorable for education this year and next, the state is still projecting a structural deficit of $7.6 billion for fiscal year 22-23 that is forecasted to grow to $11 billion in fiscal year 24-25. So as a board, we must always exercise fiscal prudence. In closing, I give you my commitment that I will make myself available and be a governing board team member in helping Vacaville kids succeed in their educational journeys. I'll get to know each of you and your priorities as the elected board members and abide by governing board protocols. I will always separate governance from administration and not get involved in the day-to-day operations of the district, which is the job of our superintendent, the only district employee who answers directly to the board. In sum, I offer my combined experience as a longtime local, a parent, public servant, technology professional, and student advocate for your sincere consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Corneliuson. Appreciate it. You could turn off your mic and camera now, and Teresa will pull up the next applicant.
Okay, our next applicant is Santiago Serrato.
Okay, Mr. Serrato, if you could turn on your camera and mic and let me know if you'd like me to read the question again.
I have it in front of me. Thank you.
Okay, I'm not seeing you. Is your camera on? Okay, there he is. Hi, Santiago. How are you?
Oh, hi. Sorry, it's a little off.
That's okay.
Good evening, everybody. Well, I'd like to fill Trustee Silva's seat to serve my community and give back to the next generation. I would like to collaborate with the community, other board members and staff with a focus on student achievement. I would like to encourage and support educators as they seek to adapt instructional and leadership practices to respond more effectively to the needs and aspirations of all children Vacaville Unified School District serves. I am a naturalized citizen, and I have been a teen parent, and overcoming many personal and systematic challenges. I've certainly been through ups and downs, some just part of life, some self-inflicted, but I've overcome them. And I want everyone to know that my passion comes from my heart and love to provide a better education and opportunities for not only my kids, but all kids. You know, the difficulties of COVID and the distance learning has created some challenges for our community. But we need to respect science and follow safety guidelines to get our children back to school. And we got to support efforts to address ongoing struggles with students, be it mental health or tutoring or other issues. We need to promote a more inclusive community. We need to end the vilification of our teachers. And we need to listen and direct parent concerns on reopening our schools safely. We also want to ensure every child in Vacaville has the same opportunity to succeed. We trust our teachers with our students' education, safety, and overall well-being. In order for teachers to teach, they need a dedicated support group to ensure they have what they need to deliver the best education possible. It is up to us in leadership positions to listen and support how and when we can best serve our students, and by following the LCAP. Vacaville needs to address our inequalities beyond what we have, and it's going to take a collaborative effort beyond what can solely happen in a classroom setting. I don't run from problems, I face them, and I am comfortable engaging in injustices that we continue to pass on to the next generation. My youngest sons currently attend Markham Elementary. We chose to enroll in a school that embraces culture and fosters the well-being of each child. When decisions are being made, I will strongly support reinvesting in our traditionally underrepresented and free reduced meals, English learners, and foster youth students. While I will advocate for all students, Vacaville Unified has a growing Latino population. We all have different experiences as an immigrant and naturalized citizen. And as a parent of Latino African-American children, it is important that we have leadership that can empathize, yet have those tough, honest conversations and build trust within our community and that have traditionally been considered to be pushed out. Tengo fluidez en español. Creo que eso me ayudaría muchísimo con el distrito. The one thing that can come out positive from many of our families from COVID-19 is that many of our families and take granted that all our schools provide for our kids, and is expressed in how many families want our schools to safely reopen. I also appreciate the taxpayers for supporting Measure A that has improved many of our facilities throughout our district. To add, as a parent of Markham Elementary students, that is the largest elementary school and with the largest low socioeconomic percentage. It's a Title I school. Hundreds of families spoke up about ensuring the community's needs, and the board and the district appropriately responded when the generation of families feel valued in our city. We feel we must continue this for all ages and all sites. Our nutritional services has stepped up and prepared phenomenal food that has nourished many kids. Our technology department has provided access to technology that many other districts in the state are still complaining they don't have. Up until the shutdown, we have been the only district that has increasing enrollment. We have CTE, career technical education programs that need to be continued to support and expand on. I'm seeking to fill the elected seat of Mr. Silva, someone who was overwhelmingly elected to represent our school at large 2 years ago, and again, elected to represent our city recently. He brought a voice to a large portion of a community that needs to continue to be represented. And many in our community.
Mr. Serrato, your time's up. I'll give you a few more seconds. You could just wrap it up.
Okay, and many in our community feel that I will continue that student-centered approach. I would be honored to have your support to continue this mission. I know I have the support of the teachers and staff in Vacaville. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Serrato. Okay, you can turn off your camera and mic, and Teresa's going to call the next person.
Okay, our next applicant is Kristin Navarro.
Okay, Ms. Navarro, if you can turn on your microphone and camera. I know that our Director of Technology is struggling with the timer, so if it doesn't go on, I'll just keep, oh good, he's got it. Okay, Ms. Navarro, would you like me to read the question again?
No, thank you. Okay, hi everybody. First off, I just want to say so far it's really nice to hear the answers from all the candidates, and it kind of gives me some peace that everybody so far has a lot to bring to the table. As for me, why do I think I'm uniquely suited for the appointed position? Right now, there's 4 males and 2 females on the board. I think bringing the female perspective is really important, having some balance on the board, just as far as children who spend most of their time statistically with their mothers. We often see a lot more than the fathers in the picture do. We connect more on an emotional level. So I would like to bring that. I'm a single mom. I've been a single mom for 10 years. I've had full custody of my kids since my daughter was like a year old, but I'm also really proud to have a good relationship with my ex-husband and his family. There was many years where the full financial, emotional, developmental responsibility fell to me. And it was a lot, but it pushed me to balance kind of everything and push through a lot of like hardship. One of my favorite quotes is that the first to complain is often the last to volunteer. And that's really indicative of how I've approached parenting and my kids. I've coached over 24 teams in the city. I have been the class parent for almost every one of my kids' elementary school classes. I am also a product of the Vacaville Unified School District, K through 12. I graduated from UC Berkeley with a degree in anthropology with an emphasis in cultural and ideological relativity, which I think is really important in today's environment. I have also been an employee of the district. So I was a long-term substitute primarily at Country High. I am happy to say that I've sat in on IEP meetings, so I have that perspective as well. I have good relationships in the district with a lot of former, admins and teachers that I still have contact with. Let's see. So I'm now a parent in the district. So my kids started off in private school. So I also have that perspective. They have gone through Orchard and Jepson and now Vaca High. And I'm really happy to say that they have progressed more emotionally and educationally in the public school side. Let's see here. Why else do I think I'm uniquely suited? I think an important characteristic of serving on the board is the ability to be liked and respected by those that you don't necessarily agree with. And I'm really proud to say that I could name a dozen people that don't typically agree with what I have to say, but I have good relationships with. So I think that's a really important characteristic that I would bring to the table. Upon return, when kids do go back to school, what I personally would really like to see is an emphasis on the mental health. Not so much getting kids, stuff straight back into the education and the knowledge and the information. But I would really like that schools and teachers emphasize rather like nourishing a sense of community when the kids go back to school. So I would like to definitely help with that. That's kind of, I guess, skills, experience, expertise. I have a little bit of everything. I'm not claiming to be an expert in anything, but I do know a lot about many things. And what I don't know, I will dive deep into research, come in with a neutral start and do whatever I can to make sure that once I do form an idea or an opinion, it is based on facts and reason and information I gain from students and parents and teachers so that it is as holistic as possible. So I guess that's it. Thank you guys so much. And I appreciate the ability to interview.
Thank you, Ms. Navarro. Appreciate it. You can turn off your camera and mic now, and Teresa will call the next name.
Okay, our next candidate is Matthew Brock.
Okay, Mr. Brock, you can turn on your camera and mic and let me know if you'd like me to read the question.
No, that's all right. Can you see me all right?
I can see you, yeah.
All right. I'm Matthew Brock, lived in Vacaville now for just over 12 years. Grew up in Fairfield, went to school in Fairfield, I started my career with Solano Irrigation District back in '06. Worked my way up through the ranks there, began as a water tender and worked up through various roles, different sections of the company, and all the way up to supervisor. I recently moved over to Contra Costa Water District, and I'm a O&M supervisor there. Some of the skills I think I possess are leadership skills. I've obviously been put into leadership roles at 2 different organizations, Solano Irrigation District and Contra Costa Water District, both government agencies. So I'm familiar with the operations, kind of how those go, day-to-day operations, as far as hiring, different procedures that need to be followed, purchasing, job planning, everything that goes in that realm. I think that other skills are I've dealt with budgets. I'm expected to maintain certain budgets. I know capital projects are a huge thing, and intent to bids and all of that. I'm very familiar with that. Prepared multiple board documents and made presentations at board meetings. So kind of been around it. Recently ran for city council, District 1. Roy Stockton won that position. Great person. It was an experience. It made me kind of realize how much the city and school board and other districts crossed over. And I think that would be kind of another area that I would be able to kind of bridge that a little bit. I built a pretty good relationship with most of the candidates on the new city council, and that might be a little avenue to explore. I have a son that attends Vacaville School District. He's in 6th grade right now. And I got to say, all of the teachers that he's had have been amazing. Our teachers are really, really great. We're able to hire excellent staff. Everything from the teachers to the clerical staff to the maintenance staff. They've all been awesome. I remember sitting out there kindergarten, 1st grade or whatnot, and picking up my son, and anybody that I came across with on campus was always very pleasant and very talkative and very personable. That was a very appreciative thing to see that was around my son. Also, girlfriend, she also grew up in Fairfield, but her daughter will be entering Vacaville School District here, hopefully in August, September. So that's kind of some of the skills there. I think that I think that the teachers are definitely, I think the COVID-19, obviously, that's something that we're all going to bring up right now. Hopefully that's gone, soon. But I think that's really made all of us, especially me as a working parent, that's really made me realize and appreciate even more the amount that the teachers can have an impact on our children. Not just mine, but every child. I think that a lot of the kids, that's kind of their outlet, and that's their connection, that's their social experience with other children, is primarily at school. That's where they build friendships. They're mentored by teachers and other staff. We've been able to do that, or we've been very lucky with the staff that we've had here in Vacaville. I have experience. I've always been in a union. Now I'm in a different type of union, supervisory side down at Contra Costa, but very familiar with that union processes and negotiations. So been through that a few times. I think that returning to school obviously is a huge thing for us, and but like everyone else has said, we need to do it safely, we need to do it right, and we need to make sure that all of the staff, clerical staff, janitors, teachers, everyone, kids, they're all safe. So yeah, that's basically me in a nutshell, and thank you guys for the opportunity to interview.
Thank you, Mr. Brock. And now, Teresa, you can call the next one.
Okay. Our next candidate is Kristina Meek.
Okay, Kristina Meek, if you can turn on your camera. And
Hi.
Hi.
You guys hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you, but oh, there you are. Did you want me to read the question again?
No, thank you. Good evening. I'm Kristina Meek, a lifelong resident of Vacaville. I'm happily married over 15 years and have 2 children, ages 16 and 12. I have a daughter in the Vacaville Unified School District, and I also attended schools here in Vacaville from elementary to high school. I'm applying for the position of the Vacaville Unified School District Board vacancy because I want to take part in building a solid foundation of education for the future of our children. I enjoy being a part of a group that is dedicating their time to better our children's education. I think it's important now more than ever to listen to one another and work together to provide a well-rounded educational system for our children. In a public school system, I believe our school board should have all viewpoints represented across the political spectrum. It is clear that Vacaville Unified is currently lacking there. I find it unfortunate that politics is playing such a large part in our public school setting. It should always be unbiased and a combination of ideas and views, not so one-sided as it is currently. The board should remain steadfast in the main goal of making our district a place where all children are represented and receive the best education they deserve. As a parent that's well connected in this community, I know that I can bridge the gap between parents and school board members. I take part in many community events around Vacaville. I have regularly attended the Vacaville Boys and Girls Club events, and my husband and I are longtime donors of that great program. I have been on the Vacapena School Site Council, PTO and PTA boards, Wildcat Night Board, and I was an avid Spice parent, diligent in helping with activities at Markham. I also ran Coffee with the Principal once a month for over 2 years at Markham. In June of 2017, I was invited by Mrs. Moe to sit on a hiring board at the district for the interviewing and hiring of the new vice principal at Vacapena. I was honored to be invited and enjoyed taking part in that process. In my career as a real estate agent, it's crucial that I listen to my clients' needs, wants, and concerns. I take part in regular training and attend seminars to help me master that craft. In the 20 years I've been in real estate, I know that I've learned what it takes to be a good communicator as well as an active listener, and I learn more every day. It is also important that I perform my daily tasks with the utmost integrity, honesty, high standard ethics, and confidentiality. I do not take those duties lightly, and I find them to be the most important aspect of my job. I believe these will carry over to my service as a school board member. And my career also provides me the flexibility to dedicate the necessary amount of time to meet the demands of this position. Over the last few months, my passion towards our children's education has led me to become more vocal in speaking out on their behalf. I feel it is necessary for us parents to remain diligent and involved, not just in their personal life, but in their education as well. While I am very passionate about the in-person instruction our children need right now, I also want it to be done safely and with compassion towards our teachers and our staff that are compromised or at higher risk. I believe that it can be done if all parties work together. If I'm given the opportunity to represent parents on this board, I can assure you it will be done with integrity, honesty, and courage. I thank you for your time and your consideration tonight.
Thank you, Ms. Meek. Appreciate it. Now I think we have one more candidate, correct, Teresa?
Yes, Candace Curitan.
Candace Curitan. Ms. Curitan, if you turn on your camera and mic and let me know if you'd like me to read the question again. Hi, Ms. Curitan.
Hi, can everybody see me and hear me pretty well?
I can see and hear you.
Awesome.
Do you read the question again or?
Oh, no, I haven't. Thank you so much. I just want to say good evening to the board and all of you brave and wonderful candidates who desire to see our children not only reach their full potential, but live it out, as well as pass those things on to hopefully future lifelong Vacavillians, another generation of lifelong Vacavillians, which I am not. I am new to Vacaville. Actually, our family moved here in the summer of 2015. And my oldest son, Maxwell, he was entering his freshman year of high school. He's a proud Vaca High grad, woo woo, Vacaville High School, of class of 2019, and he's in his second year of college. My youngest son, Christian, he is currently a 7th grader. He is in the Kairos Innovative Scholar Program. And that was due to a number of reasons. He had a lot of illnesses, which kept him out of class a lot. So he had a lot of holes and gaps that couldn't be filled just with regular intervention, which his 5th grade teacher, Mr. Miles, took upon himself to provide for him several days a week after class. And it just wasn't enough. My son's holes were huge. He missed a fairly good amount of school. So I have him currently, he's at grade level and above grade level in some areas. So I am getting him ready to re-enter Vacaville High School, hopefully. If not Jepson for 8th grade. So I'm a mom of mostly wonderful sons. When I came to this town, we moved to the Vacaville Opportunity House. We didn't have a place to live. And so my first encounter with the Vacaville Unified School District was with Rihanna Cornada, who was in student services at the time. So, I mean, it was very difficult, but she made things a lot easier. And once I saw the way that the community, everyone from the coaches to educators, the staff who looks after the children at lunchtime, yard duties, a principal of Hemlock Elementary School stayed with my son at the ER for hours until I was able to get there from work because he had been sent to the ER again. And it just reinforced this idea that a school district and a community is a family. And what my goal is to bridge that gap between families, parents, and students and the district, as well as support the teachers in any way that I can. So I have a unique perspective in that I had a child who needed no academic support and did very well. He's currently in his 2nd year at the United States Naval Academy. And it would not have been possible had we not been supported by our community in every possible way. And that's what I hope to provide for every student who comes to Vacaville Unified School District. I think that part of the issue with the culture that we have, I mean, like we do great with the academic measurements. Like we can measure our success academically, but I think social emotional learning has kind of taken a back seat. And if COVID has taught us nothing else, in order to build resilience and in order to teach our children that that flexibility and how to maintain when things don't go well or don't go our way, I think that though it should start in the home, it falls also upon us as a community to help provide that. And I know there's some programs that do, like my son was a part of the Vacaville Boys and Girls Club and ACES before it was taken over by the Vacaville Boys and Girls Club. And those things are great. I just would like to see more of a connection between families and the district. It's very important that families are invested in their education. And when children are able to, they can take ownership of theirs as well. My son was in 8th grade and he attended a school in Fairfield prior to us moving here. And his teacher basically let me know that your presence isn't needed. Your son knows what he needs to do and he needs to do that. And that's what he did. He just took off and was able to maintain on his own. Well, my youngest, he's just a totally different child and he learns differently. So it needs to be, it's not a one size fit all. It's not a one size fit all thing when it comes to educating children. Of course, we want to be sure that every child has the same opportunities, but we also want to make sure that every child is able to take hold of the opportunities that are there for them.
Ms. Griffin, can you kind of wrap it up because your time's up?
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Okay. Well, I do have a unique perspective that I don't think is currently represented at the board. Though I wasn't born a Vacavillian, I'm proud to be a Vacavillian now. And I engaged in community events such as the Vacaville High Grad Night, PTA member, as well as a board member. And I just want to leave you with a quote. And it's by Aristotle. Educating the mind without educating the heart is no education at all. I think that my experience with being part of the restorative justice process with a family whose child was one of the children who had a video that came out that was, it was disheartening to hear when the mom approached me and she said, I want to tell you before you hear from someone else that my son was involved in an incident with a word and on a video. And I just wanted to let you know. So I worked with this young man in order to help him be restored to a point where he is understanding of what he did and why it was wrong and how he can go about dealing with that, not only within his family, but with his peers as well. So that's what I look forward to doing, partnering with the school board as well as our families, ensuring that each child is able to not only reach their full potential, but live it out.
Thank you, Ms. Cureton. Appreciate it. Okay, so Ms. Cureton, you can turn off your camera, Mike. Thank you. Now we're going to go on to the next phase where we have the board members rank their preferences. Teresa, you could take the screen down now. We're going to have our assistant superintendent, Mr. Chris Hewitt, is going to pull up his screen. And we will call on board members. So Teresa, you'll call on each board member and have them do their ranking.
Yes.
Ken Johnson, are the board members' cameras on? Will we be able to see them?
When they speak, they will come forward.
Okay.
And Jane, could I just say one thing?
Yes.
I just want to say, I mean, if each person, as you're saying what your order is and stuff, if you want to say a quick thing, please feel free to say something.
And I just want to remind the board members that remember the person that you choose for number 1 is the highest point one. So it should be order of preference. Mr. Hewitt, are you with us?
Yep, I'm ready to go.
Okay. So Teresa will call the board member's name and Chris will do the ranking.
Okay. All right, we're going to start with you, Mr. Santillan. Please list your candidates, starting with your number 1, please.
All right, first off, let me say thank you to all the applicants. Really appreciate you coming in and talking to us, and really appreciate hearing what you had to say. My first choice is going to be Santiago Serrato. I'm going with him because of the fact that partially is because he does live in the area. The representation of that area is high on my list, but also with his other qualifications through his application. Next one I'm going to do is George Burton. And he, like he was saying, I already am aware of a lot of his views because I was in some of those forums with him. And then for my third one is going to be Candace. I'm going to say her last name wrong, so I'm just not going to say it right now, Candace. Same frame, her being in the area is important, and I like her focus on the social support also.
Thank you. Okay, now, Mr. Conley, please list yours and starting with your number 1, please.
Cecil, are you there? Ken, is there a problem with?
I got you. My fault. My number 1 is going to be George Burton. Of the 7 applicants who had a chance to be in the 2020 election, he was the only one that ran. He faced the long odds of trying to unseat Michael Kitsis, but I give George credit for doing that. And I thought also tonight he addressed some of the key topics. Number 2 is Mr. Serrato. He knows the neighborhood. He's a guy that's been on the street. And my third would be the Queen of Hearts, Miss Cureton.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Welsh, we're gonna go with you now. Your first candidate, please.
My first candidate is Santiago Serrato. I think Santiago would bring a lot to this board. I like that he's from the area and he knows a lot about English learners, and I think it would be great to have an immigrant voice on the board. My second choice is Candace Cureton. I think Candace talked a lot about her background, and I think having someone with the experience with restorative justice and just having that voice on the board would be good. And then my third choice would be George Burton.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Daly, Please,
Yeah,
be
this,
your number one. Thank you.
okay. First, I want to say thank you to the people who applied. I've been in your seat and I didn't get it my first time and came back to get it with another appointment and then run. So I know how you feel sitting there. And I also want to say, well, this was very difficult. So for me, my number one is also Mr. Serrato because he is in the area and he does represent the population there. My number two is George Burton because he did run. And I feel like if you don't live in the area, the knowledge, it's pretty, this person will only serve 2 years in that seat. And so I think we need somebody is quick on the uptake and studied the issues. And I feel he demonstrated that with his application and his speech. And I also thought John Corneliuson, because he is so experienced, it would be very easy for him to come onto the board and know what to do in these next 2 years. It's not an easy thing. It takes a while to get your feet under you. So those are my three.
Thank you. Mr. Jansen, can you begin with your number one, please?
I could. Thank you very much for all the candidates to participate in this process. Like Mrs. Dally, I too was appointed and it was a long, arduous process. But appreciate everybody coming out and sharing their thoughts. My top three were based off of primarily the answers given tonight and not what area you lived in. I actually didn't even look at that. It was more off of the presentation tonight and the packets that were presented. My top one was John Corneliuson with the experience that he has in the school system already and the answers. It would seem like a very good fit. My number two is Mr. Serrato. Again, the answers seem to be what I was looking for and more encompassing and very broad versus just very specific. And then my last one was Miss Meeks. Same reason for the answers. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, and Mr. Kitsis, your top candidate, please.
Yes, ma'am. I would like to really appreciate having to put yourself out like this in public, in front of the community, in front of the board is very, very difficult. So I just want to thank everybody for being willing to do that. And I feel like I need to be completely transparent. If this was an at-large election coming up in 2 years, I would have a very different way of looking at it. But I heavily favor people that do live in District 5 because it's very difficult to, in 2 years, to not be able to run again. So the first person is Santiago Serrato. He lives in the district and I think he's very in touch with a lot of issues that are very important to us. Second one is Candace Curtin. Candace, I think, you know, you live in the district and you have had to deal with all sorts of barriers from homelessness to being successful. And I think that's great. I think that's important. And the last one is George Burton, because George, you ran last time and you know that that's very difficult. And I respect the fact that, you know, you ran an election. So I wish everybody else great luck and there you have it.
Okay, Mr. Hewlett, would you go to the worksheet, the second page, and show us the ranking?
Yeah, I just want to double check and make sure I've got everyone's votes correct. Looks good.
Is there anybody who's, it looked to me like you got it right. Nobody's
Okay.
speaking.
Yep, those are good.
So number one is Santiago Serrato. Number two is George Burton. And number three is Candace Curtin and John Corneliuson.
So we have, say we had.
We have a tie for third.
Oh, I see. You did number one. I was looking at this. Okay, I was looking at it.
Yeah.
So we have a tie for third.
Yes.
So then we will have four panelists: Santiago, George Burton, John Corneliuson, and Candace Curitan. Candace Curitan. Okay, you can unshare your screen. I just want to take a minute and see the board members. And can you put it in the panelist view, Ken? I don't know what other people are getting, but I'm not getting the panelist view.
Each person controls their own view.
Okay. I didn't see the panelist choice, but this will, okay, I'll fix it later. I just need to see the board members. So do any board members have any questions about or any comments about the top four? Are we good to go forward? Okay. So the next part is we have 7 questions for each of the 4 applicants. Thank you to the other applicants. You can certainly stay and watch the process, as I said before. And what we're going to do now is Teresa is going to take those 4 and put them in a hat or a jar or something and poll randomly who will be the first person to answer question 1.
Okay, the first person to answer is Santiago Serrato.
Okay, Mr. Serrato. If you could turn your camera on and I will read question 1. Hi, there he is. Okay, question 1. You ready, Teresa? Okay. Explain the importance to the health of the district of school board members behaving with professionalism and integrity. Specifically, tell us how you expect board members to demonstrate their professionalism when something is decided by the majority of the board that is ethical, but they as individuals do not support. I know it's a long one.
That's a long question. Yes, it is.
You want to take a minute. We will not start the timer until you start talking.
Okay, well, first off, this I'm sorry, this is so long. We always, as a board member, you're always supposed to maintain your professionalism and integrity, because you are a collective, an individual of a larger group, you know, so you can't just, even though you don't support it, you have to listen to the board, follow the LCAP, make sure everything's done within the law, and listen to, I mean, the LCAP is to get input from the families, from the parents, from the students, from the teachers, and from the board members. And sometimes, you know, you might not agree with it, but you still have to be professional about it and be supportive in whichever ways that you can about it.
Okay, thank you. Teresa, can you poll who will be number 2 to answer the same question?
Okay, the next candidate is John Cornelison.
Okay, Mr. Corneliuson. I know it's a long one. Let me know if you could turn your camera on and mic, of course, and let me know if you'd like me to read it aloud.
No, thank you. No, thank you. Right. So working for a school district, many school districts, I've seen a lot of boards in operation. I've seen issues happen. I think the main thing I've noticed over the years is that the board is a team, and they need to be in sync on board protocols as far as how the meetings go, who's seconding and who wants to propose new agenda items, you know, and the protocols with that. I think that sets or level sets the board. So there's a nice understanding or even a written understanding among the board members. So issues don't, the probability of issues goes down. Things like, you know, meeting with labor groups. You know, is the board going to decide that that's okay? And if so, there's an agreement on that. Or is there, one person can't represent the board as a whole, but is there a protocol for that? And so I think as long as that communication and that true team effort exists, that's number one. Number two, I think the board needs to, get to know each other and each of their own priorities. We all represent different areas. The more the board is in sync with the priorities collectively, again, I think the probability of issues goes out. But yeah, definitely, you represent the people that you're elected. You represent our students, and professionalism is always required. And so I think that's what's expected as a board. Obviously, you have to be ethical as well, right? I mean, there's been a lot of headlines in various city, municipal, school boards throughout the state. We all see these headlines. There are issues that come up. And as a board, you have to deal with these issues, ethical issues in other areas, not in our area. But I think that's key. It's just, overall being a team and really governing, right, together. So.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Cornelison. Sure. Teresa, would you like to tell us who is the third one to answer this question?
Third one is George Burton Jr.
Okay, Mr. Burton, if you could turn on your mic and let me know if you'd like me to read the question again.
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I think that this question touches on something that's a problem with not just local politics, but all the way up of why people are so fed up with politics is that they've become so emotionally involved and so decisive that it's important, especially in an instance like this, to return some level of civility. And I'm certainly not saying that this board does not act in a civil manner, but it's important to remember that that's what people expect from their elected leaders, civil discourse. You can have disagreements, but it doesn't mean it needs to turn into a ball of negativity, as it were. Specifically, I think that, you would expect your board members to speak to the issues, to speak to their passions, but when the vote comes down to it, if you were on the losing side of a vote, then you proceed forward with an understanding that the majority rules, and your job is to now support that decision made by the majority. Whether or not you agreed with it, as long as as you said, it's an ethical decision. That's part of being part of a group. I think that also is reflected down the line in my professional career. It's important as a management team when we make decisions that we reflect a united front to the employee base, so that there doesn't turn into this picking out of different views. You want to make a decision, you want to proceed with it. And I think the same thing here with the board. You want to make sure that you present a united front with the understanding that you can't target an individual board member just because you think that you can push them one way or the other. It's important to remember that once you make that decision, the decision has been made and you support it.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Burton. So we are on the last one, Ms. Curitin. You are number 4. So if you could turn on your mic and camera.
Here I am.
And I don't know how that happened, that both times you were last.
It just gives me more opportunity to hear everyone else's thoughts and just to take it all in. I know we're all passionate about the children in our district, so that's awesome. I'll go last.
To read the question again?
Oh, no, thank you.
Okay, and you remember 10 minutes for this question.
All right. It is of the utmost importance to the health of the district and our school board members behaving with professionalism and integrity. What I expect board members, how I expect them to demonstrate that professionalism when something is decided by the majority that's ethical, but they don't support it. It's just a matter of taking emotions out of the equation and looking at it from a perspective, an objective perspective. And as long as it's ethical, we need to present a united front. As the gentleman previous prior to me stated. Unity does not require uniformity. So we can be unified, though we have a difference of thought or opinion, or, our goal may be the same, but how we approach it can vary. And it's, dependent on a lot of different circumstances. But what cannot change, because this is a top-down leadership situation, how can we expect our children in our district or our educators in our district to behave with professionalism and integrity and respect the opinion, the differences of others if we cannot show that as a board? So it's of the utmost importance. I've seen school board meetings and I'm just like, I am floored that that's how it's conducted and that's how adults behave. And these are the people that are making decisions for our future, which is our children. This is the utmost importance.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Kiratek. So now we are ready to go on to number 2, and I'm changing the rotation. So we will have first for question number 2, Mr. Corneliuson. Mr. Corneliuson, if you could put on your camera and mic, it's your turn to be first. And I'm going to read the question while I'm waiting for you to come on. This appointment is made to finish out the term of an at-large member, but we are now in areas. How do you plan to connect with the residents of Area 5?
By listening. I don't live in the area, and that's a fact. But I've worked in very similar demographics. For example, at San Juan Unified, I wasn't an office dweller. I went out to the school sites. I talked to teachers. I talked to principals. I attended community meetings. Was part of the LCAP process and the stakeholder involvement and everything that's involved with running a school district. Again, coaching youth sports, you see firsthand that some kids don't have access to resources, and you do your best to help them, right? But just being there, being out in the community, being involved, that's how I would do that. So I would listen. I would take advantage of any opportunity to learn. And every day I will learn something new, I'm sure. And mainly work through the school as once we open up, right? And we're back in person and going through those struggles and those interventions and everything that we're going to need to get our community, right, back on track after this whole COVID situation. And there's a lot of work to be done there, a lot of work. I need to be there at the various school sites in that area, listening, representing, and bringing ideas. I work in the Bay Area, San Jose. A lot of ideas are floating around all around me. And I could get those ideas, I can bring them back to Vacaville. Just in helping solving some of the equity issues and all the transition back to in-person. I think I could bring a lot of value there. So I would listen and be involved, and that's what I would do.
Thank you, Mr. Corneliuson. So the second person to answer this question now is Mr. Burton. If you could come back to us, Mr. Burton, and let me know if you'd like me to read the question again.
No, I'm good. Thank you. I think this is an interesting.
I'm sorry, dear. Oh, there you are. Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay. I think that this is an interesting point because I think that there is a bit of a mistake made. Then this is filling an at-large position, yet the emphasis is on District 5. Then I believe that the choice should have been made at that point to only allow candidates to apply for this position of District 5. From my understanding, District 5 will be created with the election of 2022. This is an at-large appointment and therefore is a candidate that is going to best serve to represent all of Vacaville. Just as Ms. Dowley and Mr. Jensen's seat will be created into their districts with the election of 2022, so will this seat. And quite frankly, there's no guarantee that the person that is appointed to fill this seat, if they're from District 5, will be elected. The people of District 5 will have their chance to choose who they would like to represent them come the election of 2022. From my understanding and from my reading right now, I am applying to fill an at-large position to represent all of Vacaville. And the people of District 5 need to be represented just as all of Vacaville needs to be represented, because all of Vacaville chose to fill this seat. And I think that's an important distinction to make. I have a child entering the district, and I am a longtime Vacaville resident. And I feel very qualified to represent the needs of our community and to finish out this term of this at-large seat.
Thank you, Mr. Burton. The next to answer this question is Ms. Curitin. If you could turn on your microphone and camera and let me know if you'd like me to read the question again.
Oh, no, thank you. That won't be necessary. Thank you.
Is your camera on? Oh, there she is. Okay.
Sure. Hi. Well, one of the ways that I connect to the community, and I live in the neighborhood, I talk with parents as well as their children. I was a volunteer with the Vacaville Junior Giants, which is a baseball program. Well, it's sort of like T-ball. And I was able to connect with a lot of the students that are in my neighborhood that way. But I will be putting out surveys, just emails, any way that I can contact the families in our area and see what it is that their needs are, make sure that they're being met. And if there's a better way to do it, then I will find it and implement it. Just hearing people's concerns, I already do from all across the district, but I do want to specifically hear some of the concerns that are in District 5. And it's all the way from elementary school to high school. And not only just the concerns of the parents and families, but as well as the concerns of the educators in the schools that are around me. I do have some rapport with Jepson, but I don't have much of a rapport with Markham, but I'm looking to rectify that if I am selected. So surveys is one, being active out. In case you haven't noticed, I'm a people person. I love people, engage with just anyone and willing to hear from them. So I just have a concern for this community, but like the gentleman prior to me stated, this is about the district as a whole. So I won't just be actively engaging the neighborhood that I live in, but the entire district as a whole.
Thank you, Ms. Curitin. Appreciate it. So last to answer question 2 is Mr. Serrato. If you could turn on your camera and microphone and let me know if you'd like me to read the question again.
I'm okay, thank you.
Okay. Mr. Serrato, he's gonna take a minute on the clock, but that's okay. He'll get it going, you can start, and if something goes wrong with the clock, I can keep time, so you can go ahead.
Okay, I don't see a clock, but okay. How do I plan to connect from residents of Area 5? Well, I do live in Area 5. I have kids that go to Markham Elementary. I engage with them because I'm part of the PTO. I'm part of the SPICE program. I'm a parent that's part of the SPICE program. I take my children down to the local neighborhood park. They are also part of Boys and Girls Club. So that's one way I could connect with parents, residents of Area 5 is by going to where they frequent, being Markham, Payton, and Fairmont, the schools that represents Area 5. Hablo español y en esas áreas hay mucha gente que habla español. A lot of people in this area speak Spanish, so I'm fluent in speaking and writing it. Connect with them at church events, at school events, just in the area shopping, and hear the concerns, but more, listen. This is very important, is to listen and to validate what they're saying and what they are requesting from as a trustee. I would also be a trustee, not just for Area 5, but all of Vacaville. Well, Vacaville Unified, since we are split into 2 school districts. But that's the way how we'll connect, by community outreach. I do coach, and I am involved with soccer, Junior Giants, and I'm very active in the community also. So that's how I will connect with the residents of Area 5.
Thank you, Mr. Serrato. Appreciate it. Now we're ready to go on to number 3, and Mr. George Burton will be the first one to answer number 3. So Mr. Burton, you could turn on your camera and microphone, and I will read number 3 while you're joining us. Explain what you think is the importance of family and community engagement and how it affects student academic achievement. Additionally, what would you like to see the district do to enhance this?
Great question. I think that family and community engagement is absolutely crucial to a student's academic achievement. Having parents that are able to receive that communication from the school, know that they can reach out to the teacher if they have any questions, that are following up with what their kids are doing and are involved, make sure that those students excel. At the same time, you know, we do such a good job of educating students, and there's always this joke that when you become a parent, there should be a handbook, because, you know, parents can use some lessons too and some education. And I think something that we could do to enhance, and maybe reaching out with the city, is to have some parenting classes to be able to, you know, get that little extra that perhaps parents might need to help them in the crazy journey that is parenthood. I just think that having a family that's involved is crucial. And as far as community engagement, I said before that, you know, it's not just parents that pay for the school, it's the taxpayers at large that pay for the school. And something that I think our district does well is communicate to the parents. Something that I think it could do better is communicate to the community at large. At the end of the day, the senior citizen down the street from me that has no children in the district and maybe moved in here, they'd like to know what their tax dollars are doing and what they're doing to support the schools. And I think having that community outreach is just as important as having the family outreach.
Thank you, Mr. Burton. The next person to answer question 3 is Ms. Curitin. If you could turn on your camera and mic and let me know if you'd like me to read the question again.
I think I can see the question clearly. Thank you very much, Superintendent Shmia. So just going to give you a little background before I answer the question. When I first came to Vacaville, I was looking for schools, like where would I think would be a best fit for my sons to attend. And I used a website called greatschools.org. I don't know if any of you are familiar with it, but one of the biggest determining factors in how successful a school is, whether it's a 10 or a 1, a good percentage of that is parent involvement. So successful education of students is just not possible without family and community engagement. That could be, it could be a number of things. Like we have access to Genentech here in town. Like there's things that they could be doing in our schools that could foster like this sense of community among parents, educators, and the district. Me, myself, I'm a very involved parent. So when Mr. Miles was teaching my son Common Core, I went in there one day and I said, Mr. Miles, how are you teaching him to do this? So that I can continue that at home. Like continuity is very important. We can't teach them one way in the classroom. And then when they come home, you know, grandma or grandpa or dad or granddad, they're just saying like, oh, that's not how I did it. This is how you need to do it. So continuity, I think perhaps we could have a night where educator could show some of the processes and the way that they're doing, not just math, but what the expectations are and how, where they are, where your children are in meeting those and how you can meet and exceed those expectations. There's no way it can be done without an active community and family involvement. And that's one of the reasons why I'm here and why I'm applying. Not that we're lacking that, but there could be more. And when we return safely, we're going to need that more so than ever.
Thank you, Ms. Curitan. So the next person to answer number 3 is Mr. Serrato. If you could join us and let me know if you would like me to read the question again.
I'm fine, thank you. So we need parent engagement, student engagement, teacher engagement by following the LCAP, right, that the district has set forth. And we need to take and listen. We need to listen, and we need to be equitable throughout the school district. We need to make sure that we foster relationships with the city, with companies and people that are in the community. And I know we have some relationships already, but we need to make them grow. We need to have relationships where our local junior college and our local businesses to help our school district be more robust and offer more opportunities and have the community more engaged, and that way it would help our students' academics go up, in my opinion.
Thank you, Mr. Serrato. And the last person to answer question 3 is Mr. Corneliuson. If you'd like to join us and let me know if you'd like me to read the question again.
Yeah, sorry, a slight delay in my camera going on here. I don't know if,
Okay.
There we go. All right. No, I'm okay, thank you. I see the question here. So I think a few things come to mind. Number one, we as a board, as a district, need to acknowledge that families are very busy, okay? So just first and foremost, we need to acknowledge that, right? But beyond that, we need to foster a sense of belonging for our community and really build, the Vacaville strong kind of way of thinking. We've been through fires this past summer. We've been through evacuations. We're going through a pandemic. This is the first time in all of our lives that we're going through a major pandemic like this. And at the end of the day, we are one community and we need to build that sense of belonging. Once we reopen, once we have our schools and our teachers back in classrooms and that school functioning as that centerpiece for a local community, we need to, in a socially distanced, pandemic safe way, go back where we have enrollment, days and open houses to really rebuild the school climate. And another idea comes to mind is, using technology, because, I work in technology, having a site that you can list volunteer opportunities that parents can then sign up for, and there's a match that could happen. But most relevant that we have to deal with right now, of course, is the pandemic. And there's a big cloud of uncertainty. We don't know simply how it's going to go, and it's constantly changing. So we need to continue our work in bridging the digital divide and connecting our families with, for the families that don't have broadband access, reliable broadband access. I'm not talking about hotspots and, things like that. I'm talking about real broadband access where kids are connected no matter where they're at in town. As we improve school facilities, they're in the center of a town, center of a neighborhood. We need to extend that with technology to offer broadband to all households, wireless, right? We have a lot of money coming in that could potentially be used for that, right? There's one-time dollars coming in to invest in our community in partnership with the city, in partnership with the library system, in partnership with small business, or business in general. And as Mr. Santiago noted, the college, we're really amping up our relationship with Solano College as well. So those are some ideas that come to mind. But at the end of the day, we need to be connected and we need to build a sense of belonging and be culturally sensitive in how we do that. But that's how I would approach that.
Thank you, Mr. Corneliuson. Okay, we're on question number 4, and I'd like to ask Ms. Curitan to answer this question first. And I'm going to read it as you join us. What do you believe is the strength of VUSD, and how would you help us continue with that? What do you believe is our greatest struggle, and what suggestions do you have to move forward?
Wow. Well, Vacaville doesn't have any struggles. As much as I would love to say that there's nothing that could be improved upon, that's something that we should always strive for, is to continue to improve upon ourselves. We can never rest until our good gets better and our better gets best. So with that in mind, I have to say that a strength of Vacaville Unified School District is the offerings as far as the number of advanced courses, CTEs. There are a lot of things that Vacaville does very, very well that makes our children competitive for some of the best colleges and universities in the country. And so some of those things that like Capstone, the early college, there's lots of things that we do very, very well academically. I don't know that there's a better district, and I've been from all the way from Detroit to a little town in West Virginia, and to here, like even in Benicia, like Vacaville is some of the best in the world, and I'm not just saying that. You guys do a fine job in providing an environment that's conducive to the proper education of our students and making them productive citizens who will go out and change the world. If I had to say what a struggle would be, I think that communication, maybe with our communities and our families. I think we could do a little bit better of a job with communicating those things that are important. Just some of the things that I've learned as a parent, I found out through some educators and other parents. So there are things that I'm like, oh, I didn't know that was going on. Just doing a better job of communicating, like what's going on, and it could be more proactive than reactive. I think that would be great. Some of the things that we learn through not gossip, but just people talking, and like I wasn't even aware of that. So I'm like, well, why didn't I hear about it? Not like I think that there's anything to hide, but I think transparency and communication between the district and our community, I think that is one way that we could improve.
Thank you, Ms. Curie. Okay, now we're still on question 4. Mr. Serrato, if you'd like to join us. You are now the second to answer this question, and let me know if you'd like me to read it again.
I'm okay, thank you. Well, I think one of our strengths at Vacaville Unified School District is school options, and our children are allowed to, our parents are allowed to are allowed to be able to pick what school would best serve their children's needs and how to educate them. We have a great nutritional service program. We have a great technology department. And our enrollment is increasing, and we offer CTE. We could grow on that. I think we're doing some great things here at Vacaville Unified School District. I believe some of our struggles, though, is with the equity issues that are having, and the underrepresented groups need a voice. They need a voice at the table. They need to be heard. They need to be listened to, and take what they're saying and come up with creative solutions to what it is that they're asking for the community to come forward with. I think those are some of the things that the school district struggles with, but there's a lot of strengths that they offer so far.
Thank you, Mr. Serrato. Appreciate it. Next is Mr. Corneliuson. If you would join us, let me know if you want me to read the question again.
No, thank you. Just waiting for the camera to come on here.
And you can start talking and.
Oh, okay, sure. Strengths. Well, I think Vacaville Unified has a lot of strengths. I really do. I think the district and the board through governance, we've done a great job of moving or transitioning to distance learning. You know, March 16th, the world changed for us, and with all things considered, we've done a great job. I think we have a strong LCAP. We have excellent plans. I think we're fiscally solvent. I think we have a solid plan for reopening with the 4 different phases. We're just, you know, there's things beyond our control that we have to wait for. And those are all strengths, you know. Obviously we have great athletic programs. We're known in the area. One of my youngest son used to be in the Vacaville wrestling program, and I would go down to Southern California, and Vacaville was known for their wrestling program. Vacaville was known for the Bulldogs, right? And so, and even though I coached at Wilsey Wood, right? So, but anyways, that's just what happened. But as far as the greatest struggle, like any school district, I always say school districts are a really unique business. How many businesses have all their customers show up at the same exact time, right? And you have to transport them, right? And you have to feed them sometimes, right? It's a tough business, and it takes a lot of work. So there's always continuous improvement in how we operate as a school district, as a board. But just some specific things that did come to mind. Obviously, we have to stay relevant to today's times. We're in a pandemic. We have to transition back to in-person. There's been learning loss. We have to mitigate that loss. We can only do that by increasing the student to teacher ratio, or time rather, right? We have to make up for this. Now there's grant, and there's funding, there's things to help out with this, but doing it is going to be tough. So that's a challenge. So it's a struggle, right? We need more individual contact with teachers. We do. We have to, again, parents are busy. As this continues, this pandemic continues, we need to just continue to do good work with our virtual learning. I think a lot of the technology that we have offered to our parents needs to be in Spanish all across the board. We need to improve, again, teacher contact, and we just need tangible strategies as a community. Again, it can't just all fall on the school district. It's a community issue. We need tangible strategies for equity and inclusion for our whole entire community, and build on that through awareness training and education. So some thoughts there.
Thank you, Mr. Corneliuson. And last to answer this question is Mr. Burton. And let me know if you'd like me to read the question again.
No, thank you. The other applicants have addressed many of the strengths that our district has. I think the education in general is the education we provide is our greatest strength. I moved away to Sacramento to attend school, and I met my wife there and got married, and we started a family. And what brought us back to Vacaville was the schools. That is this community's greatest asset, I believe. The staffs really care. I still keep in contact with, I can name every single one of my elementary school teachers from Orchard School. I still keep in contact with some of them. The principal, Mrs. Glover, I still keep in contact with her. I am who I am, and I owe a great deal of whatever small success I might have been able to accomplish to the teachers and the staff at the schools in Vacaville. I mean, goodness, my John Alonji, who I still talk to, just had such an impact on me that I knew that when I wanted to come back, I wanted to come back here. At the same time, because we're so popular, I think that leads to, minus COVID, our greatest struggle will be class sizes and room. Before COVID, we were starting to burst at the seam at some of our classes or some of our schools, and they were turning into seas of portables. And I think that that's something that we will struggle with, is space going forward. And that's where we need to leverage our greatest asset, being this asset to Vacaville, in communicating with the city council and with all the developers, they're building out in Vacaville, saying, okay, you want to increase the size of Vacaville? You need to partner with us to increase our schools. We need to be building, we need to be expanding, and that will be our long-term struggle. Also, I do want to highlight something that we're doing great right now in COVID, these hub centers that we have at our middle schools, at our high schools, where the students that are struggling to connect, that don't have access at home, they can come in somewhere, and we are doing everything we can to make sure that we try to keep them up and not let them fall behind. I think that that's something really exciting and great that our district does, and a perfect example of the community outreach and the community involvement that our district does. Our greatest strength is the education we provide, and our struggle will be our school sizes, or our classrooms in the future. And we need to get with the city and say, hey, we bring all these people here, you need to help us out.
Thank you, Mr. Burton. Okay, now we're ready to move on to question 5. And Mr. Serrato, you are up to answer question 5 first. So we're gonna, 5, what is your perception of our school's learning environments? What can the district do to ensure safe, inclusive, and welcoming environments at our schools? Mr. Serrato, are you with us?
Yes.
Okay. Did you want me to read it again? Or are you okay?
No, I'm okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Well, my perception of the learning environment is that well, right now, of course, distance learning, it's pretty hard on everybody, all kids. Having a kindergartner and a 4th grader, my wife has become the teacher, but I think this district has done great in trying to find solutions and mitigate easier way for our kids to be educated, given the COVID-19. Our learning environment, well, my children attend the SPICE program, so that's a great program that's offered at Markham. My granddaughter attends Callison, and there's no complaints there, and I think it's very well. Although I think some of the issues could be on the equity side. There's stuff there that some kids feel left out, but I think we could grow on that and learn from that, especially now with the equity task force that was created. I think that would help. And as long as we start introducing some or making mandatory these the cultural education for not only for our students, but also for the district teachers, the school board, and make it throughout the whole Vacaville Unified School District for all employees to be trained and to have an understanding of cultural aspects of how it's impacting our schools.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Serrato. Next is Mr. Corneliuson, and let me know if you'd like me to read the question.
No, thank you. So I think, again, we're in the middle of a pandemic. So our learning environment is online right now. We all know this. That may continue for the rest of the school year. It may continue into next school year. We hope not. But our learning environment is digital. And if it continues to be that way, we need to really focus on digital equity. Again, I work in the Bay Area, live in Vacaville, work in the Bay Area. I see firsthand kids, vulnerable families, and kids that don't have access, no internet access, no devices. I think it's one of our strengths as a district. We've done a great job of getting access and devices to both our students and our teachers. But that is the environment we're in right now. And so whatever, again, we have a solid plan for going back to in-person. It's going to require a lot of work, but we have that. But in the meantime, our learning environment is digital. And so we need to continue to make sure that all of our students are supported and that our most vulnerable students get the intervention and support they need to be successful. You know, we're talking about equity and inclusion. You know, I think inclusion, it's different than equity, but it's about ensuring that all of our students, whatever their background, you know, socioeconomic background, whatever their situation is, they can participate in full with all educational programming that we offer. And I think it's really important that as a governing board, you know, our job would be, if I was on it, right, but it's to set outcomes for the district, right? And that's done through LCAP planning and all that. But really, we separate outcomes with opportunity, right? We need to guarantee access to opportunity, do our best work to make that happen, guarantee access to opportunity, and then provide the intervention and all supports needed to hopefully guarantee good outcomes. But definitely giving access or guaranteeing access to opportunity is something we simply must do. That's very important work, needs to be at the top of our list. And so that is how we can really focus on building inclusive and equity-driven school environments.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Next is Mr. Burton.
Well, I think that, you know, Mr. Corneliuson really covered the COVID side of things, of how our learning environment is affected by that. And, you know, pre-COVID, I, having gone through our school system, I found them to be, you know, an incredible environment to be taught in, to be educated in. And I think that as long as we continue to keep our class sizes small and focus on that greater teacher to student interaction, that we will continue to keep the beneficial learning environment that we have right now. As far as when it comes to safe and inclusive and welcoming, you know, they've done some great studies on that students really learn best when they see themselves reflected in the people that are teaching them. And I think that we can do more to reach out to communities beyond locally to find that right teacher, that right classified employee, that right administrator, help bring more people into our district so that our students see themselves reflected in the people that are teaching them. We want to ensure that our students feel completely safe when they are at school. You know, growing up, I have friends now as adults that have come out and they say that, you know, I felt this way in high school, but I didn't feel safe being who I was. And that really saddens me. So when it comes to, you know, the LGBTQ community, our students of color, any background, our students with mental issues, I think that, you know, we really need to make sure that the kids just feel safe being who they are and can receive an education that they can be free of any kind of, you know, harm, whether it be physical or verbal. And I think that that would be a really important thing to do.
Thank you, Mr. Burton. Ms. Curitan, you're next for question number 5.
Here we go. All right, so my perception of Vacaville School District learning environment, it's very welcoming to me as a parent. I never felt like I wasn't welcome in a 6th grade classroom, and Ms. Gordon made me very welcome in her 12th grade AVID classroom when it was determined that my son was lacking focus. So it was very welcoming. I actually spent several days, I took off when I learned my son was having some issues in math. I took off a couple of days of work, and Ms. Megan Barr, she allowed me to sit in her classroom. Ms. Zervis, they allowed me to invade their space just so I could see what was going on. And what I had noticed was the educators do a great job of explaining material and teaching. As far as safety, I think that relatively it's pretty safe as far compared to some schools in Detroit that my son has attended. Perfectly safe. But what I did notice was that the teacher would offer, if anyone has any questions, raise your hand, ask questions. And everybody's afraid. Everybody's afraid to ask questions. So the children who do understand very well, they get straight to the assignment and they don't have any issues. But I noticed like one by one, like popcorn, children would go up to her desk individually, and my son was included until I told him to stop that. And you have to ask questions and you have to take chances that you'll be wrong, but it's how you learn and how you grow. And I think that the one thing that I think that we could do in that area and improve upon is fostering a growth mindset where children understand that I may have this struggle now, but if I continue to apply myself 100% and with the support of my family and my teacher, then I can meet the standard and I can exceed the standard. I think that, having my son go through bullying, an experience where it was constant. He doesn't know all the popular things, the YouTubers and the games, and he was susceptible. He oh my goodness, it was just unbelievable, unexplainable, the amount of hatred that was towards my son, who, just a kind and caring student who sought out those who are, left out. Whoever was alone and didn't have friends or special needs children, that's who he sought out to befriend. And I remember one day, and everyone was shouting like, "Christian sucks, Christian sucks." Like the whole playground. It was unbelievable. And I got angry. I talked to a couple of parents. I'm pretty sure that's probably not what's recommended. It may not even be allowed, but as we were leaving the after school program, I said, "Excuse me, did you know your son, was involved in this?" And, we had a conversation. No one was angry. We came to some resolution. And I think that it was good for the children to see adults having a civil conversation about an issue.
Time's up.
Oh, I'm sorry, about an issue, so that they can see that we can work through these things. We're a family and families get messy. And if we face it and deal with it with empathy and with some real practical ways that we can address them, then I think that we can overcome them as a district and strengthen our community.
Thank you, Ms. Kirtan. Okay, now we are on number 6, and Mr. Corneliuson will be first for number 6. And I will read the question while Mr. Corneliuson is joining us. Beyond the immediate pressing COVID issues, what are your top 3 priorities for being on the school board, and how do these fit in with our local control and accountability plan?
Absolutely. So top 3 priorities would be exercising fiscal prudence, and that's always given, but really maximizing student to teacher ratios, right? Again, there's a lot to that, lot to that schools in operations, right? But that really would be a focus. I think that's just a good thing, no matter what. So in other words, class sizes, making sure that that ratio is giving our students the best possible outcomes. Number 2, I think, when schools reopen and we are kind of back in Normalville, right? I guess you could say, there are still a lot of safety, a lot of training, and a lot of improvements that need to be made with school safety in general. Obviously we're all in distance learning now, so school shootings have gone down, obviously, but they're a threat, and they happen, and it's terrible, it's tragic. So we need to just make sure our facilities and our teachers and our school staff, everybody is properly trained, and any improvements we can make on our school grounds to reduce the probability of these events happening is done with some of the monies that we have coming in to the district to invest in. So that'd be number 2 is school safety, right? And number 3 would just, I think I have a lot of budgeting experience. I think I have a lot of good ideas, and using some of these, again, it's all proposed right now, but as some of these funding models happen, and we've successfully bargained with our labor groups, and again, school's back in operation, right? That's the assumption, that we really look at investing in, and again, in technology for our community. Right? Again, I'm not talking about hotspots and Chromebooks. I'm talking about partnerships with the city, partnerships with builders to extend true broadband access for a whole entire community, right? This stuff happens in other districts, right? I think Vacaville, we could make it happen. Again, I'm not talking about just writing a check to Comcast or Xfinity. I'm talking about strategically placing infrastructure throughout our community to ensure that all of our students have access, because that is the future. So that would be a big priority of mine. Of course, all tied into our LCAP process, again, with goals and outcomes, really focusing on, again, the budget, making sure that I think I can really help with that as far as really trying to come up with ideas and outcomes that we can be incorporated in the LCAP with stakeholder feedback that does the greatest good for the greatest many within our community, technology wise.
Thank you, Mr. Cornelison. Second one, Mr. Burton, you are next to answer this question.
Yes, ma'am. Beyond obviously COVID, I think it goes back to, as I said, my biggest concern with our struggles would be, class size, and that goes into overall infrastructure of our campuses in figuring out how we balance the needed expansion against the budget as laid out in the LCAP. I think second, ensuring that that our staff receives the training necessary to meet state requirements and to stay current with all of the changes that come through from the state education, ensuring that every level, administrative, classified teachers are receiving necessary and constant training, I think is essential. That third priority that I would have is, again, community outreach and involvement, and ensuring that we make sure that our, not just our parents, but that the community at large is aware of the goings on of our schools. In my own career, budgets and meeting budgets through various departments and how that flows into the larger whole is something that I deal with on a daily basis. We have individual departments that have their own set budgets that then filter up to that overall site budget, and understanding that you have to make sure that you're meeting those targets, meeting those goals, but also utilizing your budget in the most efficient manner to find any extra dollars that you can to supplement areas where you are struggling, and make sure that you hit your goals.
Thank you, Mr. Burton. Next is Ms. Curitan. You need to turn your mic on.
That explains it. All right. The first thing on my list would be training. Training for our educators, like the continuing education. While I was visiting my son's classroom, there was a group of, I believe it was student teachers, and I'm not sure which member of the school district it was. It was in 2018 that they came to visit, and they brought with them an idea for teaching math. And it was very engaging. The children just came alive. It was, I've never seen this classroom so engaged and so excited to be participating in doing mathematical equations. And then I don't know what it was about, but I never heard anything back. So, I mean, like if we have ideas about things, just to, once we see that they do have, that they have the ability to change the way that, change the culture in the classroom, educationally, so that everyone can, is able to succeed. I was really excited about it and I was looking forward to seeing it implemented, and I never heard anything else about it. And had I not been there, I wouldn't have learned anything about these ideas that are out here. These young people are amazing. So I think that training for educators and staff, even for the board, there's some programs, I don't know if you're familiar with, there's a gentleman I know, his name is Ryan Ramirez, and he is a part of an organization called Soul Shop. And it provides training. It's socio-emotional learning, but it's so much bigger than that. It addresses that sense of community that we want to foster in Vacaville Unified School District. So the first thing I would have to say would be training. The second would be maximizing our budget. Squeeze every drop out. And I mean, don't do anything just for the sake of that's how we've always done it. I mean, like examine everything and see, is that the most economical way to do it and the most effective way to use the dollars that are entrusted to us to further the education of our children. The third thing I would have to say, and it shouldn't be third, but it's culture, like fostering a culture in this town, not just with the school district and the parents, but the community, the businesses who come here. Like, you're a part of this community. I would have to say that it's not buying in, because we're not selling anything, right? But we want everyone to be invested. We want everyone to have some skin in the game. And how we can go about facilitating that, I mean, I have a couple of ideas, but just to create a new culture and continue to foster that.
Okay, good. Thank you. Okay, question, last one, Mr. Serrato, answer number 6, if you'd like to join us.
Am I visible now?
No, I can't see you. And Ken, I can't see the clock. I'm not sure what happened. I can start keeping time. Ken, if the clock isn't functional. So
Yeah, I'm working on it. I'll get it back.
okay, but it's 7:37. Okay, Mr. Serrato, did you want me to read the question again?
That's okay, thank you.
Okay.
The 3 priorities, I think, will be equity for all students, and that with cultural competency for our teachers. Second would be closing the achievement gap, implementing systematic changes to address the achievement gap. And the third would be have the students' achievement goals, have them ready for college and work or the workforce, and by encouraging more career technology education, work with the unions and the local trades to offer more to our students.
Thank you, Mr. Serrato. And now we were on our last question, and I want to thank the applicants for hanging in there with us. So, Mr. Burton, you are going to be the first to answer number 7, and you can join us. I'll read it as you're joining us. Board members can average about 10 to 20 hours a week on board duties. In addition to board meetings, we occasionally have Saturday workshops, and we are responsible to read information sent to us on a regular basis. How will you manage and balance your home, work, and board member time?
Great question. And I think that I come into this with an understanding of the great deal of work that the board puts into their jobs every single week. In fact, I mean, this isn't a hobby that we're signing up for. This is a job. And in my current responsibilities, I have thankfully the flexibility in my hours to be able to make time to ensure that I'm able to be at all meetings. I've already spoken with my boss on the potential, especially when I ran with this previously when I ran back in the last election, in saying, you know, I'd like to take some mornings to make sure that I'm able to go in and visit schools and be a part of these meetings, and that's not an issue. As far as family life goes, this is crucial for you know, my child, in the sense that I want to make sure that the education that she receives and every child receives is the same quality education that I received. And by signing up to be a part of this, I know that I have to balance that out. My Saturdays that right now I get to spend at home, I'm going to be there at these workshops and be as part of the group. I love reading. I love gathering as much information as I can. And so any of that information coming out, I'm going to be absorbing it so that I am completely prepared to respond as an elected, or in this case, perhaps appointed official. I take that responsibility very seriously. And don't see an issue with me being able to manage that time. I've thought about it, I've looked at it, and I wouldn't be here before you if I didn't think that I was more than capable of meeting my requirements and my duties and doing what needs to be done to ensure that I am a completely engaged and effective member of the school board.
Thank you, Mr. Burton. Ms. Curitin, you're next to answer number 7.
Well, currently, I took off a semester or 2 from my education so that I could focus on my sons. And actually, I was able to secure support from family and ex-spouse so that I'm able to be there for him. So that would allow me to be completely flexible, to be able to attend sites or do any reading. Also to research what some other districts may be doing, things that we could take and implement here. I'm actually completely available. I'm completely available. Saturdays, no problem. I no longer have a wrestler. So there's none of that Saturday all day tournaments, trekking up to Fresno or any of those things. I'm completely available to give 100% to the district and to our community.
Thank you, Ms. Curitin. Next up is Mr. Serrato.
Am I on?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Well, I have a strong support system at home, which gives me the flexibility to adjust my schedule. I work for the state of California, and I have a flexible schedule there also. And I'm committed to committing as the time needed to serve my community, since that is my biggest interest, is our community here.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Serrato. And last, Mr. Corneliuson, if you'd like to join us and answer our last question.
Sure. 3 things. I'm already volunteering 10 to 12 hours a week in my role as a volunteer assistant coach with the cross country team at VUSD Board. That season ends in March. So it'd be an even substitution as far as actual hours. But more importantly, number 2, I would use technology to be highly efficient in time management and really taking advantage of a lot of the platforms and tools out there to effectively communicate and fulfill my duty and giving back to my community through using technology to effectively manage time. Number 3, my wife and I are a strong team, and she really allows me to focus on work and volunteer and doing and using my strengths to give back where I can. And also, even though I'm employed by the Santa Clara County Office of Education, one silver lining with COVID is they don't have to go there to San Jose. And that because of the situation in Santa Clara, it's going to be a while before I need to go back. And so I have full support of my organization that I work for, both in my coaching as well as getting involved in the community as an educational institution. They fully support this. And so I don't see any issues with that commitment whatsoever, and it'd be my honor to do so.
Thank you, Mr. Corneliuson. Okay, that concludes our questioning. Teresa, you can unshare the screen. Thank you. And now, and you can get rid of the clock. Thank you. Now we'll have all the board members. Are they all present? Because now I'm going to turn this over to Michael, and he's going to take over with the board discussion. Michael, your mic's off.
I hate that. Jane, great job asking those questions and kind of staying focused with that. I just want to, again, thank the 4 of you who answered 7 grueling questions, how difficult that is to just keep going. And I really have a lot of respect for all of you. Fellow board members, now it's time to have a conversation about what you see or who you see as your number 1 person to join us on the board. So anyone who wants to start, let's have at it.
This is Kelly. I still am going with my first choice, Santiago Serrato. I just think, you know, he would bring a lot to the table. He talked a lot about equity and the achievement gap, and he knows a lot about English learners in our district. With a son at Markham and living in the area, I think that's really important that we have that voice on the board. And so I really liked what he had to say, and I think he would bring a lot of knowledge and background that that would be very helpful to all of us.
Thank you, Kelly. Someone next?
Right here. Okay. Yeah. Thank you to everybody for hanging out for those questions. Those were difficult ones, and I appreciate the feedback. It came down to a ½ a point for me. Each candidate scored very strong on individual questions. Every single one scored at least 1, if not more, on there, but it really came down to my rating is a ½ a point, and my candidate that I would suggest move forward is Mr. Burton.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
I thank you all for answering those questions. Those were a lot of hard questions to come up with an answer on the spur of the moment like that. I agree with Kelly. I am putting my suggestion in for Mr. Serrato for pretty much the same reasons she was giving there. Those are a lot of good qualities I like to see on the board there, and it gives us a little bit more of a variety on the board also.
Shelley?
This is very tough because I really do feel that it's wonderful to have a voice from that area, but I also do understand it was an at-large position, and I look at it as who can bring the biggest picture to me. And I really felt very strongly between George and John. And I think each of them, I think George really had an understanding of the issues because he spent so long in the election, and he really looked into things, and he was knowledgeable, and he has kind of an amazing passion about it. And John, I just feel like having been someone that came from UC Davis and was able to cross-pollinate from many districts I visited, I really valued that experience when I came to the board, because I was able to see what are other districts doing, how are they dealing with those issues, how are they dealing with budgets, and that was an amazing piece for me to feel I could give to the board. So weirdly enough, we may have to do some ranking, because I actually am going to go with John, just because I really feel that cross-pollination with another district, his passion, his having gone through our system, his knowledge I think he would step right into the position and know exactly what we need to do and understand the role and responsibility. So John is my first choice and George was my second.
Want as a board to bring Chris in and do a ranking, just let me know.
Yeah, thank you. Cecil?
Well, I think if you turn back the clock to January 2019, I don't think any of us would have seen where we are right now with the pandemic, our country divided, obviously with the things that have happened in our school district, with some of the issues with racism. And to think that we have to think of 4 years instead of 2 because of somebody living in a certain area, I want to think about today, tomorrow, next week, next month, how we come out of this. And I'm going to agree with John. I'm going to agree with half of Shelley that I think George Burton would be the best person to serve on our board moving forward.
Okay. And I am going to say that I believe Santiago is the choice that I would choose. I think that we have a really strong board right now. And I think that having someone who is embedded in the Markham community, 35% of our district is Latinx. District 5 has the largest concentration of Latinos in our city, and Santiago is kind of tied in connection to that and connected to that community. So that's why I think that. So at first time around, looks like Kelly, Daniel, and myself were for Santiago, and Shelley was John and George, and JJ and Cecil were George. So I would like to have some more conversation and not rush this. I don't think that I'm not super comfortable with going to force ranking in this because we're choosing the number 1 person that we think, and not the number 3, not the number 2. And if it has to come to that, we can all talk about that. You know, if that's the will of the board, then that's what it'll be. But I think we have some more opportunity to talk.
Well, I definitely think that the reason I do like Santiago, and I like him because his heart's on his sleeve. Almost the same with Candace. Living in those neighborhoods, they know the challenges that those families are facing. And he used the right word with me on that last question, was equity. You know, we have seen this before in our district. We've seen it everywhere, where some people get the yellow brick road and some people run into one gate after another. I can certainly see where he's coming from. So I could go that way because I see the value.
Okay. More comments? I mean, if not, you know, we could go the way of making a motion and seeing if that motion gets 4. Yes, if that motion gets 4, because it has to be 4, even though there are only 6 of us.
I think by pure numbers, I mean, we can do that. And if we need to do that, Teresa would obviously tell us to do that. I don't think, based off of the questions that were answered tonight, I would change my opinion. But I don't think any of these candidates would be a bad fit in there. Some have a little bit bigger learning curve than that. I think we already have, if Cecil is changing his mind, we have the 4, right? So we can sit here and debate it a little bit more. But as the question a little bit earlier that was posed to the candidates, right? if your choice is not taken, what do? We're still going to work as a board. We welcome everybody aboard here and move forward to benefit the kids and the staff. So do we need to have a formal motion? Because I think the numbers are there for Mr. Serrato.
Teresa, I believe we have to have a motion to appoint the person. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is correct. You'll have to take a formal vote, motion and second, and a vote, roll call vote.
Shelley.
I just wanted to say that I felt all the candidates were strong. I feel like this is the voice, like they're all really good. And we have to pick what's going to work best. And I could definitely live with the choice of Mr. Serrato. And I just think that I'm hoping at some point in their lives, the other people will run, because I think they have a tremendous amount to offer this board. So
Totally
I'm
agree.
okay.
I think, with all due respect, Michael, George is in your area. I know you're coming up on, you'll be 21 years by the time your term ends. And I think he would be a good guy to move into that spot. And I agree with you, Shelley. I think Candace has got a future somewhere in service to our district, because she had her heart not only on her sleeve, she was, carrying it over her head. And you could just feel someone who came into our community, going through the Opportunity House, being homeless, all the challenges she has faced in her little world, how she could affect all of our worlds and the world. So yeah, definitely. Hopefully she'll get involved.
Michael?
Yeah.
Are you out of here in 4 years? It sounds like Cecil's getting rid of you. I just didn't know if there was anything.
I didn't know.
Don't try to defend yourself, Cecil. Hey, with that, I'll just make a motion that the board approve Mr. Serrato as the next board member.
I'll second.
Okay.
Teresa.
Okay. Roll call vote. Let's see, Mr. Conley, your vote, please.
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling,
Yes.
Mr. Jansen,
Yes.
Mr. Santillan,
Yes.
Ms. Welch,
Yes.
and Mr. Kitsis.
Yes.
Okay, unanimous, 6-0.
So I just want to say again to all of the people, especially, the last four, but to the other five too, thank you very much. And, you are all great candidates. And clearly, as you heard the way we talked, it could have easily gone a different way. So please stay involved, find a way to help us serve the community. Jane, do we have any other?
I have to swear them in. I was waiting for.
Okay.
So I guess, shall I just go ahead?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so Mr. Serrato, if you could turn your camera on, I'm going to swear you in, and it will be official, and we will expect to see you Thursday night at the board meeting. Are you ready? Where are you?
Yeah.
Oh, wait, I lost you. Where'd you go?
No, he's there.
Right here.
Okay. So raise your right hand and repeat after me. I say your name, do solemnly swear
I say your name. I'm do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies,
against all enemies,
foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear. I'm sorry, getting emotional here.
I will bear. Okay, I get emotional all the time.
Sorry.
Bear true.
Bear
True faith.
Faith.
And allegiance.
And allegiance. Thank
to
you.
The Constitution of the United States.
To the Constitution of the United States.
And the Constitution of the State of California.
And the Constitution of the State of California.
That I take this obligation freely.
That I take this obligation freely.
Without any mental reservation.
Without any mental reservation.
Or purpose of evasion.
Or purpose of evasion.
and that I will well and faithfully
That I didn't hear you, sorry.
and I will well and faithfully
And that I will well and faithfully
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
upon which I am about to enter.
on which I am about to enter.
Yes, there you go.
told me now.
I'm sorry if it sounds not that good. So let me make,
Welcome, Santiago.
Congratulations.
so let me make a official statement. With the authority granted to me by the Constitution of the State of California, I proclaim you duly appointed and installed to assume the duties as a member of the governing board of the Vacaville Unified School District. Congratulations, Santiago, and welcome to our team.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you, thank you.
So just so you know, Teresa, she just do whatever she says and everything will work out.
Exactly.
Okay. That's a little.
What I do, she will, she'll contact you and just like I'm on Thursday and bring you on board. We're excited to work for you.
Santiago, your first task is to get Shelley a new lamp. Bring her out of the dark.
Out of the darkness, right. I'm a very good electrician.
Okay, so Michael, that's all for my part.
Okay, and I guess that's all for everybody's part, right? Is there anything?
Good night. See you Thursday.
See you Thursday.
I think that, let me just look at my agenda, and okay, we're adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Got it. Thank you.
They did a great job, guys.
Thank you. Good job.
Excellent.
Adios, everybody.